Welcome to the squad and Hot Take FC. I'm joined by Mark Goldbridge. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Looking forward to it. Some hot takes on some interesting opinions is what we're here for.
Absolutely. And I don't know what you're going to say, so it makes it even more interesting. Hit the like and the share button if you haven't done so yet, people. And go check us out on Rumble by scanning the QR code on the screen right now. First question. Well, I want to play a video first of all. Obviously, we saw Newcastle win their first trophy, the domestic trophy in 70-odd years. And a big claim here on the Ovelap from a Newcastle fan about a trophy for Eddie Howe.
I want to ask you two then, with Eddie Howe, does he deserve a statue? I don't think he'll get it now. No, but for us...
We'll start getting the 10 one ready.
But the reason why I asked that is...
Won the League Cup.
Well, but for us...
Everyone tries to get knocked out with that all year.
Yeah, but we've won a trophy, so there's
it does kind of show you how lucky we are as fans. Like, you kind of think of it when you see Newcastle celebrating a trophy like League. We take it for granted, you know what I mean? We sack managers for winning the League Cup, or Louis van Gaal got sacked for winning the FA Cup, and kind of shows you how lucky you are when you get to experience those things.
Fucking lucky. Where's he been for the last decade? Lucky. Bloody lucky. We're lucky as Man United fans, are we? Oh, yeah. Give me 10 more years of the last 10 years. Bloody brilliant. No, I mean, look, I do get that for Newcastle, it's a fantasy. And they would want that trophy. Of course they would, because they haven't won one for years. And United did win the FA Cup, and we have won the Carragher Cup. But I think what he should have said is, we're not lucky. Man United have had a horrible 10 years. But there is context. If you haven't won a trophy for 70 years, then you're going to be happy with a cup of tea, aren't you? So I get the excitement from Newcastle, and I don't think we should be mocking it, really. I think it's such a fantasy for them. And I'm old enough to remember when they were going to win the league, 12 points clear with the Kevin Keegan. I'll love it if we beat them. So, look, they've had a few close calls. They had a couple of FA Cup finals. I think they're in the final against us in 99 as well. So they have had a few close calls. And I'm not going to mock them for winning the Carabao Cup and say that it's a minor trophy and this, that, and the other. It's very specific to the journey they've been in. And it was nice to see them win it.
Yeah, same. When listen, we know about bad owners. We're Man United fans. I was really happy for Newcastle supporters when Mike Ashley was gone and they got new individuals in. And the only thing I say about a trophy, and I get why in the euphoria they'll want it, but I think their owners have got the ambition to get them to win Champions Leagues, win multiple Premier Leagues. And trophies, I think, at football clubs are a rarity to be handed out. I almost feel like wait and see what you win in the future and what manager does it. Because you may change your tune. They may not. They may change their tune. There was this tweet, though, I want to show you, Mark, that was put out by somebody from Standards FC, and we all know about Standards FC, that said, imagine thinking top four is better than this, winning the Carabao Cup. Rotten mentality in England. Sky Sports and the media have literally brainwashed everyone into thinking trophies aren't important.
Well, it's not Sky Sports and the media as much as I like to go in on the mainstream. It's the Premier League. It's the money you earn from where you finish in the Premier League. I mean, I was looking at United in 15th the other day, and if you finish 14th, it's another 3 million. If you finish 13th, it's 6 million. So just by finishing 5 places higher, you've earned 15 million, which is probably more than you earn from the Carabao Cup, certainly, and definitely the FA Cup as well. So the Premier League has contributed to this, and UEFA has contributed to this. And look, I get that Newcastle fans would want the Carabao Cup over 5th place, but anybody with a brain in their boardroom would want 5th place. Was it 90 million Liverpool earned from the Champions League, and they've not even made it to the quarterfinals. So 90 million... that's going to change that football club that needs money and revenue so they can get more money in from the Saudis. So I think it comes down to context, but look, it's not Sky, it's not the mainstream media, it's the Premier League and it's UEFA, and they have made 5th place in the Premier League just better than winning the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, and that's a fact. I like the fact that some people want to argue, and I like the fact that Newcastle fans would rather have a bit of silverware. And you know, I think clubs like Crystal Palace, etc., should take the FA Cup more seriously, and it annoys me when they put their reserves out. But let's not pretend it's not because you can earn more money from the Premier League and the Champions League, which ultimately is what this is all about. It's a fact. You can fight against it, but it is a fact.
I always look at it from this perspective as well, and Standards FC seem to lose this, and maybe it's because of the club they support or the angle they're coming from. But when I was younger, United won the league a lot. But we also came second on a number of occasions and third, I think, once in the Premier League era under Fergie. but I was still happy to finish within the top 4 because I always felt I had a chance the following season of winning the Champions League. Liverpool didn't win the Premier League last season, but they had a genuine chance of winning the Champions League this season. So why would you not celebrate being in it? Secondly, from a Newcastle perspective, this is going to feel amazing. The first one in 70 years. So of course, but if they keep winning domestic trophies now and they win one every other year for the next 3 or 4, but they're not getting into the Champions League because of PSR, because of FFP, they're not going to be able to spend what's required to create and keep a squad together that could win Premier Leagues and Champions League. So I feel it becomes a little bit of a, it's a bit of what I call a basic bitch piece of analysis. It's too simplistic to say a trophy is better than top 4 or top 4 is better than a trophy just as a standalone statement. Like you've given it context. I think it's a much bigger situation. I think that Arsenal created this problem as well when they used to sort of celebrate top 4 like it was a trophy, but at the same time, they were never really spending enough or investing enough to actually win the Champions League. But I don't think the actions of Arsenal for a 4 or 5 year period in history should dictate how everybody else thinks about being in the champion. Because Newcastle, they make it in the Champions League, they're going to invest and try and win it. So of course they should celebrate being in it. I just find it, for me, a strange one. I'd love to get the viewers' opinions on this. Which do you think's better, a trophy or top 4? Or is that too basic a way of looking at it? Let us know.
Well, your Wikipedia page is going to look better with a trophy on it. You know, in 10 years' time, it says Newcastle Carabao Cup winners 2025. It says Nottingham Forest maybe 3rd place champions in the league. That won't be on their Wikipedia page, but actually Forest are going to be in a better position at the end of the season.
Don't mention Forest, mate. Don't mention Forest. You shouldn't do that.
I think that's the big problem. I think a lot of people are saying, why aren't Forest getting any respect? Like Newcastle, it's all about Newcastle. Forest are 3rd in the league, and the prize for them is bigger than what Newcastle are going to get. I mean, Newcastle could have a better season if they get top 5. They've had a great season then, but if they just win the Carabao Cup and end up in the Conference League, Forest have had a better season, and they've won nothing.
Forest have been fantastic, and I've got a real soft spot for Nuno. My days in the banking world, he was when we built the football book at Barclays, he was the first guy that kind of bought into it and sort of like recommending it to other people. So he helped my career a lot. So I've always, no matter how good or bad he's doing, I'm always going to love Nuno. So yeah, he's doing a fantastic job at Nottingham Forest. But again, their owners are ambitious. So them making the Champions League, I'm not going to say it's better than a trophy, but I think it helps them in their endeavors of trying to get Nottingham Forest back to where it used to be 30, 40 years ago. So there's massive merit in that. Of course, there is. Viewers would love your take on that one. This is an interesting one. Arsenal have not conceded more than 2 goals in a match for 466 days. Does this mean they might be able to win the Champions League?
They've got the best defense in the Premier League. I mean, that's factual. It's been proven last season and this season. So they've got this is why everyone says they need a striker to win the league. I think in the Champions League, look, I don't think they'll win it, but I don't think they're not going to win it just because they haven't got a striker, because we've seen Mourinho has won Champions Leagues on defense. And the good thing is that Real Madrid are an attacking side. So when teams attack Arsenal, that they struggle against teams that sit back, like United did and like West Ham did. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. I wouldn't say they're going to win it. They're not one of my favorite. They're not in my favorite top 2. I'd still say it's Real Madrid, Barcelona, but they've got a chance. I think if they beat Real Madrid, I think they'll suddenly become very much very excited Arsenal fans. But what a turn up for the books it would be if they did that.
It would. I think a lot of people do easy prophecies with Arsenal. They kind of make impossible, no way they're winning. They know that they're underdogs, so they make these massive claims that it's impossible so they can look like a genius at the end of it when they're only predicting what's the most likely outcome. It's almost like, you're not a genius for saying tomorrow morning the sun will rise. I honestly look at it from that perspective. But when you think, if they haven't conceded for the best part of 18 months, more than 2 goals in a game. If that defense holds up to that level, it is incredible. And if that defense holds up over those 2 matches, that gives them half a chance. Martinelli's back. Looks like Saka's going to be returning. The idea they've got zero chance, that it's impossible, that they cannot beat Real Madrid, I just find that to be, it's an exaggeration for me. It's over the top. It's, as I say, it's a very simplistic prophecy. So they can brag, I told you I was right. And I just feel like Arsenal, I don't know about you, I just feel like they get a lot of disrespect from the media, from punditry, which I just feels a little bit, when you consider the size of the club, who the manager is, where they were 4 or 5 years ago, there seems to be a hell of a lot of ridicule surrounding them compared to other teams in England.
Well, I think also it's in their own fan base. Like there are still people out there that printed T-shirts and Arteta out, and they've, you know, we get it at United. This "I told you so." There's people in the United fan base who made their mind up about Agate or De Ligt or Rasmus or Xerxes, and they don't change their mind. And that's the same with Arsenal and Arteta. That I said Arteta out, so I'm, you know, it's almost like that when Arsenal win, they're not happy. And I mean, look, you know, how can you be a fan of a football club, be handed that evidence that you haven't conceded 2 goals in 18 months and go, Arteta out, he's not that good? I mean, you literally need a striker. And that's just another affirmation that you literally need a striker. Like, if you put a striker in that team, you've already got the defense, the midfield. Like, I think, I've said it before, I don't know whether I want to say it, but I sort of think Arsenal will win the league next year.
Oh, big claim there, people. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. A lot of those Arteta outers, though, they don't want him to get any more money. They don't want him to get a striker, which is also, again, I feel there is a percentage. You can't put every, you know, person into the same box. I think there's a percentage of Gooners that just want to be right, that Arteta wasn't good enough. So the idea that they might get Isak or Gyökeres or Osimhen and then win the league, I think it almost scares them, because it means they'd have to admit they were wrong, which, I don't know.
Well,
It's not the, well, they, you know they won't. That can will be getting kicked down that road for 30 years. We've seen it with Ronaldo. There are people that when he turned like 38, 39, was no longer the Cristiano Ronaldo at his peak. I remember seeing people do full-length videos. Do you remember 10 years ago when I said he was a fraud? Now this proves it. And I look at it and just think the shameless behavior is crazy. But I suppose that's football fans for you. Now, speaking of football fans, did you see what Jamie Carragher said in the build-up to the Carabao Cup final?
I did. He said it on the Redmen, didn't he? Redmen TV. He said that basically the Carabao Cup's better than the FA Cup, which is obviously preposterous. The only thing I would agree with him on that is that the FA Cup lands at a bad time. Like, it lands in January, February, March, when if you're in the Premier League, Champions League, it can be a bit of a hindrance. Whereas the Carabao Cup, you get it out of the way early, don't you? A lot of it. But it's just simply not true, though. The FA Cup is not and never will be smaller than the Carabao Cup. That's what he's, you know, if he's indicating that.
It is. I saw this tweet actually that got put out. And it says, Carragher is like a sulky child, not saying a word, not asking questions, face like a slap task. Absolutely wonderful. And it's even his separation after the game. He's meant to be working. He's meant to be an independent sort of pundit and not biased. But he's not even standing with everybody else, Mark. He's away from everybody. He didn't ask a single question in this period. I mean, there was some massive sour grapes from him on Sunday. There really was.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Carragher has been caught on the spot and reacted badly, isn't it? I mean, we've seen numerous clips on and off the camera, but I think he's you can see it with Carragher. I've always, I mean, I couldn't give a toss anymore about it, but there was times where I thought, you know, I'd love to have a debate with Carragher or a Neville or something like that. And I understand why they won't do it, and that's absolutely fine. But one of the things with Carragher why I always wanted to do it is because I can just see how when he's lost it, you've got him. His face goes a little bit red, and that's a prime example of when Carragher's lost it. There is a lack of composure there sometimes with him. I think he's a good pundit, but I just think he can't control his emotions, and that's just prime example of like a spoiled little child sat there, caught in 4K. Carabao Cup's better than the FA Cup, and then you lose it.
Yeah, that was the bit that I liked the most, because the thing about these claims, and it's not all Liverpool fans, I want to specify that, but there's a percentage of them that whenever they're doing something very good, they always want it to be seen as better. It could be one of the most amazing things ever. that's not good enough. You've got to say it's the most. They did it with talking about Man United created the term the treble. The treble never existed until 99. We've done it before them. If we win the Champions League and the Carabao Cup, it is still the same as Man United and City's trebles, which is a nonsense. The treble has existed since the 1960s. They chased it in the 70s and we stopped them from doing it. And there was a very distinct phrase and difference between winning a treble, winning 3 trophies in a season, and doing the treble. Then they tried doing it now. Carragher tried doing it on the eve of a Carabao Cup final in 2025. For the first time ever, professional pundits and a fan base are talking about how it's better, harder, more difficult, some even said more prestigious than the FA Cup. And you're sitting there and it's like, this is the same fan base that mocked Man United for winning it 2 years ago. So I can't, for me, it was poorly timed. It was if you're going to start pushing that narrative, you've got to start it way in advance. You can't do it on the eve of the final and then losing it. I just think, as you say, it made it sweeter. It made it taste a lot better for us as rivals of Liverpool, for me personally.
I think somebody in the chat might be able to find the comment, but I'm pretty sure a few years ago he said that the treble, I mean, it's not a treble. The treble that Man United did, they did a treble that was better, according to him. Or he tried to say it wasn't far off. And that was when they won the Europa League, which was the UEFA Cup, the FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup in one season. And I think he went along the lines of, well, they're all knockout tournaments, so there's more jeopardy, so therefore it was harder. I was like, you're literally comparing the Champions League, the Premier League, and the FA Cup to the Europa League, which is literally the Poundland Champions League, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. But so he's got form for it, I think.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Viewers, hit the like and the share button. Big story that came out yesterday from Mike Keegan, who said that Sky Sports pundits have been urged to stick to the facts when the 1-1-5 verdict drops. An email warns against making snap judgments when the verdict comes out within the next month or so. What do you make of that?
I mean, I did a video on this on That's Football, sort of talking about, is it an indication that Man City are going to get found not guilty, which I don't think it is. I think what this actually is, and that doesn't mean that Man City won't get found guilty. I think this is, you can read it both ways, because if they did get found guilty and old Carragher's there with his face going red again and he's going, good, yeah, send them down to the National League, they're a bunch of cheats, then that could potentially cause problems for Sky, because he's a Sky employee. And as we know, what you do on your business's time kicks back on the business for any potential issues that may arise. So I understand it from Sky's point of view. But then the flip side of that is, and this is why shows like this and what we do in general is very important, is that, for me, that these and there's an even infiltration into YouTube with the likes of, Rio and Ovelap and all this stuff, is that they are still media backed in one way, shape or form. Their producers are ex-media, etc. So they're media trained. And what that also says to me is that Sky are saying, don't say what you think, because you might get us into trouble. So it's just a clear indicator again, isn't it, that the mainstream is just basically scripted. You're not getting proper opinion. And if I was on Sky, I would say what I bloody well thought, and I'd reply to them and say, do you really think I'm going to say something that's going to get you sued? I'm not an idiot, but I am going to put my opinion across. And I don't necessarily agree with everything Simon Jordan says, but Simon Jordan will say what he thinks about that on TalkSport, because he's intelligent enough to know he can have a strong opinion on it without leaving himself open to, being sued or anything like that. So my thought is just, but I've said this before about the cozy relationship between Sky and the PGMOL. Like, the pundits don't say anything bad about the PGMOL because there's a relationship there. So it's just the dilution of mainstream, really. And I'm glad it came out, because it just shows you, you're not getting proper opinion on there. You're getting diluted opinion.
No, I agree. I don't think it's an indicator that it means they're guilty or being found innocent at this particular point, because I think the logic works both ways. Because what Sky is saying is, if they're cleared, we don't want any of you saying, well, they're cleared, but it's because of this reason, and then you misinterpret it and you make it sound like they are guilty, which you could be sued for. Equally, if they are found guilty, but only a percentage of the charges, they won't want pundits saying, well, they're guilty, 115 charges, they're cheats, strip the titles, because actually maybe they're only guilty of not cooperating and they can't prove the rest of it, so the punishment will be different. But as you say, there is always a watered down I mean, unless they're criticizing Man United, actually, it always feels like and I know we criticize our football club and we call things out, but I always feel when it comes to Man United and Arsenal, we've already mentioned them on the show, it seems to be completely unfiltered. With every other club, there is always an element of, we won't disrespect this, or we won't say this, or we won't challenge there. Let's wait for the facts to come out before we have an opinion. But you don't wait for the facts to come out about anything to do with Man United ever. It's always, let's talk about it. It's only speculation, but let's go in on it. And I even saw it the other day. It was Garnacho played. And the commentators are sitting there and saying, I wonder if he'll storm off down the tunnel today. But it was already debunked 4 or 5 days earlier that he told the bench, I'm just going to go and change my clothes because they're soaking wet. And it's like, how are you still pushing the narrative that he stormed off down the tunnel when he didn't? It's kind of weird. But yeah, as you say, the mainstream media is dying. It's why I know we featured the Ovelap earlier. Nothing against the show or anyone who goes on it, but it's just the mainstream's attempt to stay relevant by taking content creators and making a show with them. I just think the content creators should make the shows themselves.
Would you go on it?
I say yes and no. No, because I'd rather build something. I'd rather us as a community build something ourselves where we not control the narrative, because that's not what I ever try to do, where I think fan content is at the heart of it, and it's about making fan content bigger as opposed to trying to keep the mainstream relevant. So that element I'd rather build my own. Where I would like to go on it is I'm sometimes very unhappy with the way Man United are discussed, the facts that they don't push out that are properly, and what I consider to be some of the lies that are said on there. And I'm not suggesting the United fans don't challenge and don't do a good job. I would just like to see what they had to say to my opinion. And some of it isn't even directly about United now. It's like I keep seeing debates on there about Mo Salah being clear of Beckham. Why are we comparing an inside forward or a right winger with a right midfield player? I just, it's conversations like that I just want to shut down. Not because the people on there saying it are bad, but I just feel we're comparing an apple with an orange here. So there's bits and bits. Yeah, but at the same time, I'll be blunt with you. This is not. I don't ever get asked to do anything, mate. So it's so unlikely they're going to ask me to come on. I think I've called out the mainstream media far too often. I mean, I'm blocked by Sky. I'm blocked by TalkSport, all of them. And I've never actually said anything nasty about any of them. It's just been, I think that opinion's wrong. The amount of those accounts that have blocked me is crazy. Crazy.
I just think, my thought of it is, I think some of them are good. I don't think they select the best content creators. I think they select the content creators that kiss arse a little bit. There's 4 or 5 of them on there that are like that, which I've said before. And also, I just find it quite insulting. I don't actually respect players and pundits as opinions. So why should I sit in an audience with my hand up? I think the last 10 years hasn't been about that. And I actually think it's quite a clever way. And I think the Ovelap's good. And I think what they've built's really good. But I think they've been very clever in how they deal with fans, because they saw fan opinion and fan content as a threat. And they've taken this mainstream approach into the YouTube world, whilst also diluting the fan threat by sticking them in the background and asking them to put their hand up. So they were losing player credibility. And now they've created something that, these fan content creators who were creating something themselves, they go on and go, can I have my hand up? Oh, can I laugh? And I just think that's not what I'm in this game for. I'm in this game for fan opinion to be the elite opinion. We've just mentioned there about Sky and its dilution. So yeah, for me, I just think I did get asked to do it a few years ago, and I said no because of somebody else who was on the panel, not a player. And obviously, I don't think Gary definitely doesn't like me anyway. But for me, it would be a no in that current format anyway. I'm not interested in sitting in the background and putting my hand up. And that's not disrespectful to those who do it, and that's not me being arrogant saying I'm not going to sit in the background. But I feel I've built something very, very significant, as yourself, as people like Robbie. Don't think I need to sit in the background on a bench with my hand up, to be honest.
Do you know what? I understand where you're coming from, because I think, and again, it's not a dig on anyone who's doing it, because everybody has a different view of where they want to be and what they want to do from an industry perspective. But I do think content creators have got, it's ain't about the Ovelap specifically, content creators have got to be careful. And I mean that because I think what the mainstream wants to do is to try and take you away from your platforms, take you away from our community as much as possible to help them so that our community doesn't continue to grow. And then at some point, you're not going to be flavor of the month. Somebody else is going to come along and you're going to be pushed by the wayside. Just don't forget to keep growing your platform. Don't burn your relationships with people in this community, because we have the power to continue growing and getting bigger and better. So I don't have an issue with anyone who does it. I don't look at it and go, you bastards. It's never in my mind. It's just be mindful of these things, because I can remember 10 years ago who the faces were the mainstream media wanted on. None of them are used anymore. None of them are spoken to. They've all been kicked to the curb for a younger model, which happens in TV world, and it will happen again. So what I'm essentially saying is don't turn your back on the fan media industry and the people like us that are in it. And I'm talking about whether it's channels with 4,000 subs or 4 million subs. I'm talking the whole community as one. Don't turn your back. And even our own communities, still so much infighting and crabs in a bucket mentality. But actually, I don't think people realize we should be helping to prop each other up, as opposed to trying to drag each other down, because that's what the mainstream media wants, is division amongst us. And then everybody clambering. Is that the word? Clambering. Clambering. I don't know what. To work with them, because it gives them the monopoly again, which I feel like we were in a really good position as fan media and content creators and growing. So no, listen, I don't dislike the shows. I watch the Stick to Football podcast. I like listening to Roy Keane and Ian Wright go at it, to be fair, and things like that. So I do listen to some of it. I listen to TalkSport daily, but I actually listen to TalkSport for the callers. I like hearing the fan opinion, which is still why I listen to it. But I don't really listen to it to hear Jamie O'Hara give an opinion, if I'm being honest. But that's just me. Look, viewers, we'd love to get your opinions on all of this. We'll be back again same time next week if you enjoyed this, so leave us your comments below. If during the week there's anything you want us to react to, any opinions, any pundits that you think, I'd love to get Mark and Terry's opinion on, send them in to us, DM it to us, or whatever we want to do, or tag a link in the comment section and we'll try and feature it. Go and check out the squad on Rumble now by scanning that QR code that is on the screen. We've got more planned for this channel coming forward as well. And we've got a little bit of work coming up together, haven't we, with myself on the United Stand and That's Football. And exciting times ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Lovely. Take care, people. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye.